Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rangefinder WPPI's second webinar in our Reset series. Reset is a series of monthly educational videos and content we are creating to help you grow your photography business in 2021. You can find all of the information on rangefinder.com and look for the tab Reset Series. And don't forget that you can ask questions during this webinar by just clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'd like to thank Tamron for supporting this presentation. Now I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Caroline Tran. Caroline is an internationally published wedding, portrait, and commercial photographer, and she's based in Los Angeles. Her work can be seen on the cover of books and periodicals, in magazines, and in various print publications. She speaks, mentors, and teaches while balancing being a mom of two very cute little boys. Caroline's going to show you how she directs and poses families to create dynamic portraits that pop. Caroline, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So good to be here. Thank you for having me. For the past couple years at WPPI, I have presented pickup points, but related to posing couples. So this is my first year where I'm going to be sharing with you how I pose families. So let me just share with you my screen real quickly. All right. So I think before jumping into how I pose families, I wanted to give you a little sense of my journey and how I got to where I am today. So for those of you who don't know, I've been in business for probably 14 years now. The start was a little bit blurry, but I started off with the goal of wanting to do a lot of destination weddings. Now, it wasn't an intentional goal per se. It happened to be that way. I was posting a lot of my work online, and couples from all over the world were finding me. And I took my very first, and growing up, I didn't ever get to travel because my parents worked a lot. And my first gig was to Chicago. The couple picked me up from the airport and we immediately went to go shoot. So I got a taste really quickly for what it was like to think on your feet and adapt. Find, the best light, the best location. Nothing was ever scouted. I just kind of had an idea based on what I saw online, and it's funny to this day, so many people message me because they don't know where I got this shot or how I got this shot. And I think that was just kind of when I got like the wanderlust bug. So since then, I started shooting weddings around the world. But shortly after that, I got pregnant with my first baby. And I refused to give up all the destination weddings that I had planned because I had booked out a year full of travel already. And it was a very exciting life, and I wanted to do both. And so I took my baby along on places. He followed me to both babies, actually, just happened to be 7 weeks old when WPPI came around. So I brought them to WPPI. I spoke with them. In this picture right here, you see I'm actually carrying him in my carrier as I'm speaking. I think I've nursed my babies during talks. My second baby, I actually snuck him into a bar as well. And things were fun at the time, right? When I only had one baby, I took him to Thailand. He got to play with baby tigers when we were there. It seemed awesome. Then I took him to Bali when he was 2, and then he got really sick. And we had trouble finding a doctor, and it was he's fine, but it was a very scary moment. He had like 105 degrees. And right around then was when I got pregnant with my second one as well. And that's when it occurred to me that I cannot keep up the wedding schedule that I was keeping up. And I was sad. I felt like I was failing in a way, and I had major FOMO. And that's when the reality that hit me is that I can't measure my own success based on old benchmarks or other people's benchmarks. So maybe my colleagues and I who used to like like hang together. Maybe we were all like in the destination world, but I had to also accept that, it's time for me to pivot. I My kids are going to be in school one day in a couple years. That means that they're going to only be home on weekends. They're going to be gone Monday through Friday. If I am shooting weddings every weekend, when do I see them? So that's when I made the conscious decision that I was going to pivot into from mostly destination weddings to 50-50. I reverse engineer my business and decided that I was going to run my business 50% weddings, or at least 50% of my income from weddings, 50% of my income from portraits. And that worked wonderfully for many years because many of my brides later on became my family clients as well. So it was fun. I got to photograph, them on their new babies, multiple babies and such. Then the wonderful pandemic hit. And that is when it suddenly changed the landscape of my business to 0 weddings. So at this point, I thought to myself, well, I went from all destination weddings to 50-50. And then now I have 0 weddings. So I either I'm happy with 50% of my income, or the big question I asked myself is, how do I double my portraits? How do I double the income I make in portraits so that this 50-50 that I used to do can now be 100% portraits? And just like how I troubleshoot any part of my business, anytime I am trying to raise revenue, I always remind myself there's really only 3 ways to raise revenue. So you remember that too. Anytime you're trying to scale your business or grow your business, there's only 3 ways to make more money. One is you either sell more stuff to the same people. So same pricing, same clientele, but you're just adding more stuff to it now. So maybe instead of just one portrait session, you're now also adding an album to it, or you're adding multiples, like you're trying to upsell, it's upsells basically. So how can I upsell them more things, right? That's another talk, but I wanted you to know my thought process in going through this. The second thing is you can get more clients. So same price, same product, but now volume. Instead of serving 10, you're going to find 20 people instead, right? This was how I started offering mini sessions and portrait sessions, because for me, where this really came about was one year, I was already a photographer. I get a Christmas card in the mail from my brother-in-law, and it was taken by another photographer. And I was like, oh, he hired another photographer. He didn't even ask me. And I realized like a lot of my old clients were doing the same thing. And they didn't even think to ask me because one, they didn't know that I would shoot families. And two, if they did know, they just assumed I was too expensive. So my idea was, how can I start offering portrait sessions to more people without compromising my own um, level, right? Like without like undercutting. Because honestly, and there are I looked around and there were people in my neighborhood who were offering mini sessions at $125, and I was like, I'm not going to compete with that. So how else can I, like, how can I make it my own? So I started offering mini sessions that were still more than everyone else, but but I realized who my audience was. My audience was really either former clients who either I outgrew, is that the word? I outgrew, because as the years went on, I started increasing my prices and they couldn't afford my new pricing anymore. And so I thought, okay, if I could just start finding a way to offer these shorter sessions that are cheaper, then I can start serving some of these people as well. And especially during holidays when they really just wanted one Christmas card photo, I didn't have to do my full long drawn out sessions to try to sell them an album, because really all they wanted was one card. So that's how my mini sessions started to pick up. And my mini sessions, like mentioned in the description, was getting me over $30,000 a weekend. Now, it didn't get there overnight. It was a process. I had to learn couple things and troubleshoot couple things through the years. And every year I made it better and better and better. And last year during the pandemic, I was able to make 35,000 in one weekend just from family shoots like this alone. So um, it's there, and I'm excited to share with you how I got to that point and how you can get there as well. So now the third way you can make money, if you don't want to necessarily get more volume, or if you want to do both, if the ones that I'm going to talk about today is going to help you get more volume if you choose to, and also how to raise prices. Now you might be thinking, it's a pandemic, Caroline. How are you going to raise prices on people? Well, the trick is you're going to raise prices without raising prices. And the way I did that was I started shortening my sessions. So my mini sessions are 15 minutes long. And so when I first started offering mini sessions, they were half an hour long. So what I did is then it became 20 minutes, then it became 15 minutes, but I never lowered the price. So now I went from being able to fit in two people in 1 hour to three in 1 hour to four in 1 hour. You get my drift here? So that's how you end up raising prices without actually raising prices. And it may sound like, oh my gosh, like how. And one of the things I had to overcome as well is when I was seeing pricing for people, I was seeing other photographers who were offering a $125 mini session for half an hour. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to compete with them offering if my sessions are only 15 minutes? Um, there was a lesson that I learned when I had bought my first house, because you're probably thinking, wait, how are you going to offer shorter sessions for the same price? And for the sake of time, I'm going to jump to my second story. I had two examples for you. But this year, I wanted to redo my website. I looked up contractors. I found one guy who was willing to do it for $8 an hour. I found another guy who wanted 25 an hour. At first glance, I thought, well, of course, why would I pay 25 an hour if there's a guy who's willing to do it for $8 an hour? As I started diving deeper and I asked more questions, I realized that the guy who can do it for 25 an hour can finish it in 4 to 5 hours. The guy who needs $8 an hour needed 40 hours to complete it. So in the end, I actually would have been paying more. But that was what taught me the value that fast doesn't mean cheaper. And I realized that a lot of my clients, a lot of them are like doctors or lawyers, their hourly rate in a sense is worth a lot. So if I can produce, if Nextdoor is offering you an hour session for $300, but I can do it in 1/4 of the time, I can do it in 15 minutes and produce the same number of quality photos. I actually want to charge you $900 for it, because I know that you're going to get the same end result and you're going to save a lot of time. And especially for clients who are camera shy and babies, children who have short attention span, this could actually be an asset and a good selling point that you make to them. So when you're offering your sessions, like this is what made me think about it. There's only three offerings that you can make. You can offer something good, you can offer something fast, you can offer something cheap, you can offer two, but never three. If you offer something fast and cheap, this to me is kind of like your JC Penney studio, right? It's fast, it's cheap, it's going to be low quality, but you get what you pay for. So if you're looking for fast and cheap, you go for something like that, high volume studio. If you're looking for something good and cheap, chances are it's going to be slow. That's like my associate photographers. My associate photographers, I train them to shoot good. They are still working on being faster. They still need a little bit more time. And I didn't notice it until I started having my associate training them for mini session. And I was like, yeah, I can do this in 15 minutes, go. And she's like, whoa. And the first time she tried it on a test shot, it took her an hour and a half to produce the same number of photos that I did in 15 minutes, right? So to me, if you want something good and cheap, it's going to be slow. Where you ultimately want to get to is good and fast. If you are good and fast, you can actually start charging a lot for it. So please do not value yourself based on just because you can do it just on time alone, right? Just because you can do it in 15 minutes, you're estimating all the years of practice you did, all the education you did, all the trainings you had that was able to make you do it much faster. So what you are offering in that 15-minute session is actually worth, you know, an hour and a half of what someone else who is less experienced can do. Um, but I didn't get here overnight. I used to be cheap and slow. I'm going to share with you some embarrassing photos of from my early sessions. This was an early family session. I went to their house. I mean, if you look at this, my lighting was okay. It was not bad, right? But the posing, like, what are they doing? There's no love or interaction, right? Like, I just plop them there. Um, and then what about this one? Oh, let's put the baby on the chair. And then, okay, parents, like, get right next to them and just pose next to them. Yeah, just get in there next to them. Okay, you may think that's like an offshoot. Oh, I've done that once or twice before, but no, it was a regular thing. I didn't know what to do with the babies. I stuck them in and had parents. There's like no, this is no different than someone who's snapping this with an iPhone. It's not a terrible photo. The parents probably love it, right? But what I'm trying to get you to is good and fast. So the first thing you got to do is good first. You have to get good. This is not good. This is okay. It's it's fine. It could be this passes for the cheap and fast quality, right? Um, but if you want to really start being able to bump up the price and start to have people really um, wanting you, you have to get past the average and you have to get your work to be great. Um, Splotchy lighting, right? So things that I struggled with was bad lighting, repetitive poses, the people were stiff and emotionless. Sometimes the kids were grumpy and I didn't know how to interact with them or work with them. The photos lacked personality. And then there was just no wow factor. Like these were the things that I had to overcome before I was able to um, become good and slow. So that's the next progression. I then got good, but I was still slow, right? So now let's talk about what makes an amazing portrait. If you want to get to the point where you are like, on fire and your session is just like jiving, you have to first, to me, they're like pyramids. Like the most basic is define and communicate your vision. If you don't have a vision of where you want to go, how are you going to direct your clients of what to do? Are you wanting this to be dreamy? Are you wanting this to be fun? Are you wanting this to be playful? Or are you wanting this to be romantic? That is all going to affect how you direct your clients. But you have to know that before you enter the shoot. So, those are questions that you should start off with first. The next thing is lighting. If you don't know your lighting and if you are struggling with lighting, you're not going to be able to truly connect with your clients. And if you want to pose and direct them really smoothly, you have to not be worried about any of the lower level stuff like lighting and um, and vision, like knowing what to do. Once you have those basic things, those are the things that I think you have to enter every shoot with. A good understanding of your lighting, a good understanding of what you want to accomplish. Once you have that done, then that's when you can really focus on connecting, posing, and directing your clients. And that's how you meet your max potential. So these are some of the photos that I started creating when I was doing 50-50, 50% wedding, 50% portraits. A lot of these were also wedding clients or former clients of my own. Portraits that, have real genuine emotions to them, as you can see here, but also playful and fun, and the interaction with them, they're having fun with it. And it's stuff that they would want to hang on their walls, right? Um, Also with big families, it's not just your typical formal portrait, right? These are things that they would hang on their wall without being so boring and typical. These are the way that I interacted with them and got them to move is different than what they would have created on their iPhone. And that's what ultimately, because cameras are so accessible to people now, we really have to be able to show them what is different about us. And it's it's going to come in your better use of lighting and your better use of directing, because they're not going to know how to direct themselves. So this is what I really want you to focus on. So the first thing, like I said, is have a goal. Know what you are shooting for. Are you posing and directing them for wall art, or are you posing and directing them for albums? There's a difference in how you approach it. If you are going to be posing them for the purpose of print sales or print wall art, you want to go for these like hero image type stuff, right? If you are going to go for an album, this is when you're going to go in and you're going to get some more subtle details, maybe just her hands, close up of, you know, um, maybe just like cropped like this or cropped like that, right? These are things that might not stand alone really well, but together they tell a beautiful story together. And that's where it fits into an album. You have to know your lighting so that you are not worrying about it. Once you get that together, you can then start worrying. Then you can start focusing on connecting with your clients, posing them, directing them, feeling their energy, because that's how you're going to be able to pull out their genuine emotions from it. So that's how I developed what I call pickup points. Now, pickup points came from when I was a child and I was learning piano. I went to an annual exam and I was playing, and I hit a point in the music where I just stumbled and I didn't know how to pick it up. And I kept trying, but every time this was at the beginning of a melody, this seemed to be at the middle of one. And when I tried to go to the beginning of this one, this was in the middle of one, and I just couldn't find a place to pick up again. And the proctor cut me short and said, "That's enough. We've heard enough. Next song." Surprisingly, I passed with honors. And the proctor at the end came up to me and said, "You know, the reason why I cut you off was because I could tell you could play the music, but you had no pickup points. You learned the song as one long song, but when you stumbled here, you had nowhere to pick up from again other than the very beginning of the song." Fast forward to when I became a photographer, I noticed that this was happening to me as a photographer. I was shooting clients. I had memorized a whole list of prompts in my head. And I had written it down. I put on my phone. Usually what happens is I only remember the first, your short-term memory is only 7 and 9, like 7 plus or minus 2 items, right? I remember maybe the first 7 items. It was really more like the first 5 items and maybe the last 2 items. Everything in between I would forget. And I would start shooting, shooting, shooting. I got through the beginning part and then I would get stuck. And then I'd start getting flustered because I'm like, oh my God, what do I do next? What pose do I go to next? Oh, it's getting kind of awkward. Oh, is it getting hot in here? Is it just me? Okay. And then when I would try to restart, I'd end up restarting all the way at the beginning again. Or the client would come in a second outfit, or the client would want a second location. And I find myself starting at the same poses again. And I found myself basically just doing the same poses over and over and over. And I was so worried that I couldn't really get creative. So that is how I came up with the concept of pickup points. I was like, just like piano, where the proctor said I needed specific areas to pick up again, I needed to do the same thing for my portrait sessions. I needed to have like 4 points that I knew that I could pick up on. What this helped me was it helped me keep inspiration flowing, because I would do this one point, and when I would get stuck, then I would know, let's fast forward, let's jump to the second point. And if I got stuck again, jump to the third point. So when I was able to finally get this go like flowing, I was able to worry about connecting with my clients more rather than what to do with them next. That allowed for more genuine expressions, more authentic moments. It allowed me to maintain control as a director, and it didn't. Otherwise, I was getting flustered. I didn't find myself flustered anymore. I found myself, okay, I'm out of inspiration. Let's jump to the second pickup points. I would go again. Let's jump to the third pickup points, right? And it helped me pace myself. I don't know if you experienced this, but there was a lot of times where at the end of a shoot, I don't know how long I've been shooting for. How long has it been going? Can I end it? Is it too short? Is it too long? I can't tell if I'm dragging it out. But when I started breaking up my full sessions, my 1 hour shoots into 4 15 minutes blocks, I was able to pace myself now, because I would know that, okay, did I hit all 4 pickup points? If it was super efficient, I would hit up all 4 really efficiently and we might end in 50 minutes. If it was a little bit of a struggle, then maybe it went a little bit longer than an hour, but it was always more or less around the same. And I found that when I was able to know that my time was managed, it gave me confidence and it allowed me to end the shoot stronger because I knew that we got it. So, the basic concept of pickup points is you break up your shoots into 15-minute chunks. Now, if you are doing a mini session, you are essentially just doing one of those chunks. If you are doing a full session, then you would do four of those chunks. And this also gives you a lot more variety if you wanted to do, say, um, a 15-minute session, a 30-minute session versus a 1 hour session, right? So you can break up your packages in different ways. But knowing that I can achieve something in 15 minutes gave me a lot of empowerment. Um, so for me, I have 6 pickup points. You are always welcome to create your own pickup points, or you can use mine. But I found that the way that I created this was I sat down and I looked at all of my favorite poses, and what I realized is that they all basically boil down to one of 6 main poses, or a combination of. Once I realized that, I was like, I don't have to learn long list anymore. There's 4 essential pickup points that I have to get through. If it is a full session, I spend about 10 to 15 minutes per pickup points, cake toppers, walk, run, cheek to cheek, or prom. If we finish fast, if the energy is still good, then I have 2 bonus pickup points I go to, which is carry and laying down. If we don't get to it, it's okay, because I know that with the 4, I have delivered a full session. If it is a mini session, I might do just 1 pickup point, or I might do 5 minutes of each pickup points, or like 3 to 4 minutes of each pickup points. So that takes you to like 15 to 20 minutes shoot. But this is going to guarantee that you have a full session where people will get exactly all the different poses that they have come to expect. So the first pickup points is cake topper. Cake topper is where it's kind of like a good starting point because it's a little bit stiff. This is where I have everyone just stand still. This is also where I don't know what their personalities are yet. So why don't we just start being really stiff first? And I tell them to pretend that they are on top of a cake. Can't you just see this family right here just creating little figurines of them and putting them on top of a cake? That'd be so cute, right? That was how my inspiration for Cake Topper came. Like, let me just get them in cute little poses. It's going to be stiff, but that's okay. Cake Topper is not about the emotions yet. Cake Topper is a starting point. It is basically getting them into good composition. That's the key of cake toppers. So you can see here, they are kind of like in a triangle, right? They're creating the shape of a triangle here. This is just so that I can get good composition first before I can go into emotions. It can also look something like this. I use this on a wedding day with flower girls and a ring bearer, getting them together. But it is stiff, but it is also very cute, and it is likely to be the picture that a parent would frame. Grandparents might frame, right? The picture of this brother and sister here is going to be priceless for grandparents. They ordered tons of prints of it. Their parents ordered tons of prints of it. It's also great for kind of novelty stuff like this. This was me and my boys. It was a self-portrait on self-timer. I don't have time to direct them very much in that case. And they're kind of unpredictable, my kids. So let's just do cake topper because I know I can get something kind of just cute out of it, right? I also used it for newborns and their stuffed animals. So this is a good starting point. Again, it's not going to be like the point of this one is not emotion. And like I said, the very base of your pyramid, remember I said is your vision. So you have to ask, what is the why? For this, I'm trying to create an art piece here. I'm trying to create something that will go up on a wall, or something that grandma would want up on a wall. You can spread them out. These all look like little individual cake toppers. They don't have to be warmed up to me. That's why this is such a great place to start when you're posing, because this is while you're warming them up. You get them in good composition. You can see this one is again, has that triangle happening here. So it looks good. And then you can start playing with them and seeing what emotions come out. Like, well, this one, the baby was actually crying. So if she's crying, all right, let's do cake topper, but look the other direction. And I love how it came out. This is actually a greeting card company licensed this for me. So it's a great art piece in that way, right? You can play up on that kind of stiff and stoicness or crying in this situation. But from there, the cake topper then develops to other fun things like, hey, can you dance? Can you twirl them? Right? As they're getting more and more comfortable with me now, I can start to play around with it. This was a funny outtake. The baby was falling asleep literally. And to me, the dog's like, hey, like, what's wrong with you? So these are like just funny outtakes that come from it. Um, from there, I think cake topper naturally goes to walk and run really nicely, which adds movement to it. This is also a good way if they are feeling a little bit nervous to make them look relaxed without them realizing that you're taking a picture of them. So for this one, if there is any situation where they can stand on, you can see there's a log right here because the child was not wanting to cooperate. They wanted to run instead. Just like pets, if you can find something for them to stand on, that is going to help you control and keep them in one place. So I found the log and I was like, hey, can you guys balance across the log as a family? Hold hands and balance across. And at that time, I tell mom and dad what I'm going to do. So I tell them, like, hey, look up and smile at me. Okay. And then it's like, all right. Then I do something to get the kids' attention. And then I have that nice, perfect little family photo of them. But there's still action to it. There's personality to it. I didn't tell him to do that. That was just him like balancing and having fun with it. You can also have them walk away from you. You can have them walk towards you. The wonderful thing about this is that they often don't even realize the picture is being taken. So this picture here where they're walking away from me, they didn't know that I was actually taking the picture, but I got the kid's attention. I made a joke. He looked back and smiled. And like what a wonderful moment that is. That is something that can hang on a wall that looks like art, but is actually them and is very personalized for them. The next pickup points is cheek to cheek. This is my traditional photo. This is the photo that I know mom and dad's going to want to print. This is the one that grandma is going to want to print. So from cheek to cheek can easily turn into nose to nose. And you can even do that with a toddler. You can do that with a baby still in the belly, right? But the idea is that cheek to cheek reminds you of what to go next. So just to kind of recap a little bit, I did the cake topper. I did it for as much as I can do, right? Okay, stand there, stand like this. Then I try to get some reactions out of them, maybe some kissing, some jumping, some running, right? Now it's turning into walk and run. Okay, now run away from me, walk away from me. Ooh, can you do a jump at the end of it? Can you do a kiss at the end of it? Can you throw your baby up in the air at the end of it, right? So suddenly I'm at a standstill. I'm out of ideas. Okay, let's move on to cheek then. Okay, these are going to be the traditional photos now for mom and dad, right? Um, the key, if you're going to do nose to nose with them, is you want to make sure that they don't smush their nose. So when I do cheek to cheek, I love getting them cheek to cheek like this because I love how it gets them close. It's much better than when they just stand. Because if you just say take a picture together, they're just gonna stand there together and they'll probably be something like this. But if you can get them to go cheek to cheek, and even better, have them lean towards the camera a little bit, it's gonna look a lot more intimate and more warm. Now from there, I can then turn and go, oh, go nose to nose now. So then now they're already in position. They just have to turn and go nose to nose with each other. At nose to nose, make sure they're not doing this where their nose is being smushed, right? It's a gentle nose to nose, like they barely just tap, barely contact. You can also have multiple people kissing. So I call this like a waterfall of kisses. So mom kiss dad, dad kiss baby, right? And you have some like really nice synergy going on here. But same thing, don't smush your nose when you're kissing. This is also great for if there is a child, a fur baby, who doesn't want to um, cooperate, who doesn't want to be in the picture with mom and dad. Great. Okay, mom and dad, you guys go nose to nose while I figure out what your child wants to do. So I have mom and dad just hold that moment there. They are frozen in this nose to nose or kissing moment. And at that time, I am waiting to see what I can get the fur baby or child to do. Oh, fur baby, willing to balance on the log. All right, you sit there, right? Then it was able to create like an artistic photo from it. And then once I got the fur baby to cooperate, I'm able to even tell the parents to now come closer to the fur baby so that there's not so much depth of field going on. Then I can get the whole family portrait together. Same thing with the child. The child was running around and not wanting to stay for formal family photos. That's fine. Let's do something creative with it. Mom and dad, you stay back there, or you just stay put while I figure out what your daughter's willing to do. And then at that point, I don't have to worry about posing them anymore because they at least look cute. I can worry only about posing the child. So the child, ooh, will you walk with me? Okay, cool, we'll walk. Ooh, can you run up and hug mama's leg? Will she do that? Let's see. Okay. Oh, she's running to mom. Awesome. That's another shot. Ooh, mom, when she comes to you, hug her. You guys come down and hug her and embrace her, right? Then now that's like another cheek to cheek where they're all hugging each other and their faces are really closely. So let's say I've maxed out all of my cheek to cheek ideas. I'm stuck again. I've hit that wall again. Ooh, I don't know what to do next. All right. Then I go to what I call prom. Prom is just having one person hug from the behind. When prom for couples started off literally as the old school prom picture where one is behind the other person. But with kids, I love it when the kids hug parents from behind. It's just, it's playful, it's close, it makes them way more intimate than than if you were just side by side. Yes, that's what the purpose of cheek to cheek is. Prom to prom gives you a different variation and a different pose, a different option now as well. So you can also have parents hug the child. You can have parents prom the child instead. And then when the child's promming the parent, you can move on to other silly things like stand up. And then now the child's cracking up because the child's floating in the air, right? So the idea of pickup points is it's supposed to spark inspiration. It's not set in stone. It's not a rigid like structure that you have to follow. It's 4 to 6 points that you can fall back on or jump forward to when you find yourself stuck and need a little boost of inspiration. This is also going to help you avoid repeating repetitive poses because you will have known that, oh, I already did cheek to cheek. Let me do some prom now. That way it'll give you different variations of poses. Now, carry is my other one that I love to do with kids. And it can work anything from preschoolers like this to little babies like this. Now, with carry, there is kind of like, you have to play around with it. Like this also works really well for kids who are cranky, kids who don't want to cooperate and who want to run around. I'll say, hey, mom, dad, do you want to just pick them up real quick and give them little uppies? And then that usually will get them in a smiley mood and makes a great photo as well. And if the child is still young enough and if parents are strong enough, I'll have them do a nosedive instead, which means tipping the child downward. And I love the way this looks. You can see the difference between this kind of carry versus this kind of carry, right? So most parents will do this first, but this I love because then it can allow for the nose to nose part. And then the child, it's a pretty unexpected position for them. So it usually makes them laugh and giggle. It's great for that too. But while you are carrying, don't stop there. Try different angles. What if you move to the side view instead? What if you took mom and dad out of the picture and had them lay down and now they're just bench pressing the baby instead? These are all other great ways of creating some fun carry type portraits. You can also, for example, she was kind of towards the end of the shoot and not into it. So I had dad give her a quick carry. It's a great energy boost. You can also do it for both kids. You can have each parent carry one kid, and that creates some real fun dynamic and add a spin to it, right? And then you can even have your child. What about the child carrying the parent? I mean, this was a fun photo that I created and was featured in Rangefinder, I think last year or the year before. But this was something fun that I did with my kid. It was on self time. Actually, I think it was on remote time, and I threw the remote and photoshopped it out after. But something fun, right? But regardless of the position, that's what carry can lead to. As long as you just go with it, right? And don't worry about being so rigid. Know that you're playing with the carry idea right now and whatever the kids are willing to do, go with it. I think that's the best way to work with kids. Rather than forcing them to do something they don't want to do, you play up with them. or you set them up to be in the position that you want, like the log that I was saying, right? If they if they don't want to be where you want, sorry, where was that log? Or even this dog photo here. You know, if the puppy was wanting to run around, find a place to set the puppy where they will stay, get them to the place where you want, then you compose everything else around them after. So that's kind of the fun part about Carrie. So now the last bonus of the pickup points that I love is laying down. I don't always get to do this. It really depends on the environment, but this works really well for indoor shoots and in a field if they're willing to lay down. But again, it's a bonus for me. It's okay if I don't get this at a shoot because as long as I got the other 4 pickup points, I know I have succeeded. But if there's time and if things are going well, then hey, let's do laying down because it offers some very different perspective. And this is where you can start getting really creative and create unique pieces of portrait and art for them. So this is like mama with her twins. I love having mama snuggle with them, but it's not snuggling in like the traditional way that they would typically snuggle, right? This is like having fun with their heads and moving them in different places. And then what about their feet? Turn them around. This is also great if the baby is either only wanting a pacifier, and so it's not their face is not great because they're sucking on a bright pink pacifier, or if they are crying and this could be a really quick shot that you get. It's fast, right? So it's not like I'm torturing the baby by having them cry, but it's like, hey, baby's, face is crying. Let's just turn them around, use their feet instead. And it can create a really fun moment for that. Another fun one I love is while mom is laying down, you could have um, either dad or child. I've had child do this before, or whoever. It could be grandma kiss mom from kind of like a Spider-Man. I see it kind of like Spider-Man as well. It's like that upside down factor. And so this also gives kind of a different perspective and is not like your typical portrait, but this would be beautiful hung up on a wall. And then you can also have them lay down and just stick a bunch of their heads together. So the key with this when you're doing this is really to fill up the space. So you can see, like I had her and him come in at an angle like that. She filled in that gap there. He filled in that gap there. So you want to make sure that their heads are as close as possible. You see how their heads make like a circle essentially, right? So that is kind of the trick to doing these laying down shots, and they work for all ages. So you can see this is another one laying down, but they're different. So you can see this one, they're all laying on the floor or on the bed. This one, I actually had them use the sister's shoulders as pillows instead. Sometimes the heads don't quite fit like that, but you won't know until you try it out. Um, and it has to depend on like the size, like the age of the kids as well, and how they all come together. So if you want to be safe, have them just all lay down. If it's only 2 people, I tell them to do ear to ear because again, I'm trying to fill in the space, right? So if they're ear to ear, then they are perfectly, one head is perfectly filling the gap of the other. If you want more kids in it, then you're going to have to separate it a little bit and then have the other heads fill in the other spots. And then with the older kids, I found that I needed them to actually lay on top of shoulders to get them like a much more intimate um, composition and feel for them. And then remember, like, don't just stop there. When you have them in a position, don't stop. Don't forget to look in for the close details, but also back up and look for the wide. In any of these compositions that I've been talking about, you should always be looking, front and back, right? Like the little girl, the little baby and her dog on the beach where she was looking away, right? The back is just as cute as well. So while they're laying down like this, I saw, oh, what if you kick your feet up in the air? Like, how cute would that be? So this is all things that sparked from laying down, right? So now when you do this, you won't have to like have long lists of things you remember anymore, just 4 to 6 pickup points. If these don't make sense to you, create your own. But the ultimate idea is that you're grouping up all of your poses, your favorite poses, into 4 to 6 most common type of poses. And when I did this with my own photos, I found that that's what they all broke down into. They were all either cake topper type of shots where it's like kind of stiff like that, or they were cheek to cheek, like close portrait type of shoots. Um, they were either walking or running. And when they're walking and running, you can have them walking towards the camera, away from the camera, side, like running across the scene as well. And then prom was another one, right? Just to change up the way that they hold each other. Then the last two ones was carry and laying down. That's going to give you a lot of variety that you can play with. And once you hit up all six of them, you know that you have given them so much variety in portraits. I think as a perfectionist myself, one of the things I struggle with is feeling like I've never done enough, that I can always do more. And that's what was really hard for me to wrap up shoots with in the past, because I always felt like, oh, like, did I do enough for them? Like, and then, but I can't think of anything else. I guess we're done, and then it ended on a question mark. Like, that's like not a good feeling, right? But now I can tell myself, did we get it all? Yeah, I did. I actually hit up 6 pickup points in this shoot, or I hit up 4 pickup points in this shoot. But I can tell your kid's getting tired already, but we got through 4. So this is awesome. Like, yes, we got it all. Like, great shoot. And that ends it on just such a more confident, like strong note, right?
Caroline, excuse me, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
interject for one
please.
second here.
Mhm,
Donna was asking, when you're taking pictures from above, are you
mhm.
standing above them? What's your angle? How are you taking those pictures?
Yep. Yeah, I'm standing above them. So the stuff that you see, I'm usually like standing on the bed. I like to put them on the floor because that allows the most stable situation for me to stand on. So I will just straddle them and stand on top of them. If there is a step stool, an apple box, or a ladder for bigger groups, then I'll hop on that to do that as well. But sometimes with the bigger groups, like it might just be like just a bunch of heads in the picture. Like the shot that you saw, this one right here, this was just done me standing over them. So you can see it's a more tight photo because that's as wide as my lens was able to allow me to go. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
and then going along with that, what lens were you using when you were taking those shots from above?
So so I shoot with the with Fujifilm GFX, and that's a medium format camera. So when I say the millimeter of the lens, it's going to be a little bit different. So for example, my favorite lens on my GFX is the 110 f2. But if you convert that to a more standard, like full frame camera that most of us are more familiar with, that is going to convert to something that's more like a 85 1.2. But because it's medium format, it's a much larger format, and so you get. I mean, without getting on to the technicals, yeah, it's more like an 85 1.2 is my favorite for portraits. Um, but I also love, like when I shoot with my contacts, which is also medium format. My favorite on that one is an 80 f2, and that is going to be more like your 50 1.2. And so that one, I believe in a two-legged zoom. Like I believe in using the longest lens that I possibly can, and I would rather back up by foot rather than just using a wider lens because of the distortion that you get. If I had shot this, let's say on a 24 millimeter lens, you're going to get a ton of distortions on the corners. His arm is going to be stretched out, right? Her body is going to be stretched out. If there's any heads that happen to be there, it's going to be stretched out. So I would much rather stick with no less than a 50 if you're using a full frame camera. Um, no less than a 50 if you want like that pretty portrait without all the distortion. Um, and then how do you should I just go down the questions that we have? Well, here, let me just wrap it up and then I'll open it up to Q&A.
Okay.
So, um, like for the sake of time, I have put together like 2 behind the scene shoots. So if you go to pickuppoints.net, I have 2 videos on there where you're going to get to follow me on a real family shoot and you're going to get to follow me on a real couple shoot. And they're each 15 minutes, or actually less than 15 minutes. I think one was like 11 minutes or so, and one was like maybe more in like the 7-minute range. It's in real time. And I want you to, the main thing is I want you to see, like when I teach pickup points and when you're first learning pickup points, it's gonna feel very fragmented, right? Like you're learning each pickup points individually. And that's because you have to really understand it first. But once you start to get really fluid with it, you're gonna be able to jump back and forth really fluidly. And in when you watch me shoot in real time, you'll see how I do that. Like you'll see how, I'm trying to do as much of the cake toppers as I can. Kid is not cooperating now. Okay, I'm going to jump to a different one. Jump to a different one. Ooh, maybe I can blend two of them together. Once I blend two of them together, um, maybe idea dries out there. Then okay, what if I revisit this one because I didn't get to finish this one, right? So to me, it's really just four main things that I'm trying to make sure that I cover, and it makes it a lot more approachable for me, a lot more manageable, less intimidating as well. And so um, I see one question from Mark that says, how do you get people comfortable for a 15-minute mini session for camera shy people? So the beauty about pickup points is that a lot of these have built in, um, well, so like in my full pickup points class, I have an entire chapter just on how to warm up to people. But a really quick one that I can throw out there for you is called mirroring. And that one is where you, in a sense, imitate them. If they are a little bit shy and reserved, then you should imitate them. And because that's going to help you build trust with them a lot faster, right? So if they're a little bit quiet, then you're going to talk to them more like this. If they come in and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" Then you're gonna also be like, "Hey, oh my gosh, how is it going?" Like, I have this great idea. Let's have you do this, right? Whereas if they are calm and quiet, then you're gonna be more like, "Hey, you know what? Let's start with this. Like, let's have you sit down." So when you can imitate their energy, you're gonna be able to gain earn their trust a lot faster. So that's like one quick way to do it. The other way is a lot of these pickup points have built in things that already gets them to look good, and then you can then focus on like the emotion stuff after. So for example, with prom, I might get them like the little kid to or mom, right? I might have, okay, mom, like go ahead and like prom your child, right? So mom hugs the child from behind, and that gets like your standard picture like that, right? Maybe they're really stiff and mom is like this instead, hugs the child but looks really stiff. Then I might say, hey mom, can you whisper to your child um, a story about when he, like either like an embarrassing story. You kind of have to feel out their energy. So, I'm not saying do this for everyone. I love bathroom jokes, but that's if it's right for them. I don't just throw it out from the start, So I might say, like, if it's a boy, I might say, like, hey mom, has he ever peed on you? Like, tell him the story about when it first happened. And then someone who was really shy and reserved might start laughing, and that's my shot right there. Whether she felt comfortable enough to tell him or not, and the child is probably going to crack up at that thought as well, right? So there's little things that you can do once you get them in that position. So Alda asks, I notice you have great backgrounds. Do you create the backgrounds for the client? So I do offer that service. When I do mini sessions, I design the backdrop, and then that's what they're coming in for. Everyone gets the same set. It's one weekend only, and that's what creates that drive. So I have people coming to me for mini sessions multiple times a year when I do this because they know that it's going to be an awesome set and it's gone after this weekend's over. For holiday sessions, I do 3 weekends of it. And like I said, I usually make 35 grand per weekend. So my holiday season is awesome. Um, and it allows me to take and I do these in November. So it allows me to take um, every the whole time from Thanksgiving to New Year's off to be with my kids because I know that I made enough to for the rest of the year in November, and I can just relax, not have FOMO, and know that I've done enough for my kids. So, but yeah, so I would design backdrops for those. So this is where I'm going for volume. Remember the 3 ways to make money that I was talking about? So the people that I target for the mini sessions are people who want some awesome quick portraits of me. They can't afford my full session. So it's not going to be like the storytelling lifestyle type of shoot where they get to bake cookies and together, that type of stuff. But it's going to be some great portraits to hang on your wall, great portraits for your Instagram and for your holiday cards. That's the purpose of mini shoots. Get them in and out for those pictures. And there is an awesome backdrop that I already created for them. I also offer custom backdrops as well for the clients with more money. who want something really unique. So we will design, me and my team will design custom stuff for them. And that's really fun. So I'm just going down the list of questions. So if you have a question, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section. So Alda asks, what is your favorite camera and lens to use in the field? So I typically am a snob on prime lenses, and that's because I love shallow depth of field. So when I shoot both film and digital. For my film work, I shoot Contax 645 with the 80 millimeter f2 lens. If I'm shooting digital, it's the Fujifilm GFX 50S with the 110 millimeter f2. However, last year they launched, I think it was last year, they launched a new lens that is a 45 to 100, which I think is going to be more equivalent to like your 2470 type of lens. And I love that lens. Like I didn't expect it. It's a f4. I think because it's a GFX, it's a medium format. The f4 really is more like a 2.8 at that point. So it still has beautiful depth of field, but I'm able to use it for a lot of my commercial shoots. For my wide shots, I'll use that because I can get a lot wider of a scene, but it still has good depth of field without a lot of the distortions that I was talking about. How are you lighting them laying down? For the most part, I like even lighting when they are laying down, unless I'm going for something dramatic, like purposeful, like line stripes through their face or something like that. But for the stuff that you usually see from me, the stuff that I want to see on their walls, it's going to be even lighting. So either open shade, or with the diffuser, or yeah, even lighting. If you are shooting, so Charles is asking, if you are shooting an outdoor mini session, given the time constraints, are you working in one general location or confined area for your, yes. So if you do, the idea with mini session that I find most people miss the point at is that they tend to make them too long and they try to offer too much. And I was guilty of that as well. What I do is you get, so depending on, I have different types of mini sessions, but for the most part, it is like 10, I tell them you get 10 photos. It's a 15-minute session, you get 10 photos. When you are done discussing the posing, my question is, what are you charging for a mini session and how do you get 30K in one weekend? So I do, it is more like 18 sessions per day at $600 each. So and then the other thing is the print sales that come after it. So the 600 is essentially for the sitting fee. So it's $600, you get 10, I tell them 10 to 15 pictures. And then after that, and it doesn't include the digital files either. So everything is add-on after that. And let me just preface with, a lot of people have said to me, but that's because you're in Los Angeles, there's the market. It's not because I'm in Los Angeles, it's because I marketed really well. There are a lot of people that like photographers that are just a city away, who are offering $125 for a longer session. Like, and I know this because my brother-in-law paid for one of them. Like I saw, it was like a 30-minute session for $125, right? So it comes with building your audience, priming your audience, educating them on your value, on why they want to shoot with you instead, and why it's worth it to come with you. How many points would you cover for a mini session? So a mini session typically would probably have three pickup points, to be honest, but short. Like it would probably be like 3 minutes each ish. So it's like a 9-minute, like comes out to be 9-minute, right? So like 3 to 5 minutes per 3 to 5 minutes per pickup points. And it's usually just cheek to cheek, carry, and prom. When you do a 15-minute session, do the clients feel rushed? Do they feel they're not getting their money's worth? So the idea with the 15-minute session and why it has to be that is because you don't want to cannibalize your own sales for a regular session. My clients who come for mini sessions know it's a mini session. They know what I normally charge and they know why this is such a value, that they are getting a they this is also great for entry level. This is good for like clients who have been wanting to shoot with me but can't afford me. So this allows them to be able to work with me at a much lower price point now. But it also allows me to show them why it's so awesome to work with me, and they are then more likely to pay for a full session. But you can't give it all away at a mini session or they're not going to book you for a full session. I've seen many people, many photographers lose out on full sessions because the clients are like, well, I'll just wait for a mini session. I'll just book a mini session instead. So you have to make sure that like the mini session solves a very specific problem. It's for the person who doesn't need a full session. They need either just an updated headshot, they need an updated holiday card photo. They want to send their parent like a new picture on the wall or something like that, right? But they just, or they don't have the budget for a full session. So those are the people that you're catering to, and you have to remember that to not like give away the other stuff and hurt your other sales as well. Do you use on-camera flash for outdoors, or stay natural lighting to keep the mood? Okay, so for me, I use for my mini sessions, I used to do them outdoors. I stopped. The reason why is because one, weather. It was unpredictable. I ran into a situation one holiday session where I had so when I first started mini sessions, I think the first year I offered I had four. The second session I had six in a day. It grows slowly, okay? But that one year when I had six, it rained. So now I'm stuck in a situation where I'm trying to reschedule six people. And the idea with mini session is you're only going to be profitable if you can make them back to back to each other. If you are offering one-off mini sessions, like it's not worth it. Like I'm not going to, like interrupt my entire day for your 15-minute session. Like it just doesn't make sense for me. Um, so I want them all together. It's like if there's a lot of people that want it, fine. In May, I will offer my next mini session, like wait list. If you can't afford the full, if you're in a rush, then pay for a full session. How often do you offer mini sessions? So under the Caroline Tran photography, I offer them twice a year. I offer them for Mother's Day and I offer them for holidays. The reason why I do that is it comes out to be perfectly 6 months apart. So there's May is when we do our Mother's Day one, and then November is when we do our holiday ones. And so that one I feel is like just enough for frequency wise, but not so much that it like tires them of it. The other, I started another company called Magic Paper Studios that you can type in and look up if you want to see what it's all about, but they're custom illustrated sets. So it's the same concept as my mini sessions where they come into like a cool set, but that one is 4 times a year. We do one per season and the set is decorated for the season. So we have a spring set, a summer set, fall set, winter set with these fun like illustrated props. You should really check it out. They're like cartoons and it's fun. Magicpaperstudios.com. And that one, the idea is that at the end of it, then we sell them a book that chronicles the entire year of their child, so they get to watch their child grow through the years, through the seasons. But as a even cooler to top it off, each of the props actually correlate with the letter, and so it actually turns into an ABC book. And so these have been really popular for the kids, for parents to book for their kids because now they get like a custom ABC book for their kids. But yeah, so check that out. It's fun. And the sets are also for sale as well if you wanted to be able to offer these sets but don't know how to build the sets yourself.
Caroline, I'm going to interrupt 1 second.
Yeah.
We've only got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
There's some great questions in here. So if you want to take a quick look to see if there are any ones that you
Yeah.
want to specifically
been-
address, that'd be great.
Yeah, I've been going chronologically down, but if you see any that like are urgent, let me know as I'm looking as well. So, how many portraits do you typically provide for each mini session? 10. Um, so I just answered Rick's question on that. um, how do you package the prints? Um, for mini sessions, I deliver them through an online gallery and then have upsells. But then I started doing IPS at my most recent holiday session, and that did really well for that one. So I do offer them the option to buy proof prints. So then that's like proof prints of everything that was shot. Why did you move into medium format? So I started shooting with the GFX because I love the Contax 645. That was like my favorite camera and what I was shooting a lot of my work and what my style was known for. And I was looking for a digital counterpart that would match that look so that my digital and film work would blend seamlessly together. And so the medium form, because the GFX, the Fujifilm GFX is also medium format, it already had like very similar sensor. I was also shooting Fuji 400H film a lot. And so I found that with the Fuji system, the color, the native colors in it already matched as well. How do you market your mini sessions to get that many at holiday time? It's all organic. It's grown over time. I do a lot of email marketing. If you don't do email marketing, I recommend you getting into that. So every year it builds. First year I had 4, next year I had 6, following year I had 12, and then it just grew from there. And then um, another year I added a second date to it. I I get them, I collect them in an email list. So every year I retarget the old people. So every year it gets bigger and bigger because I'm getting all of the old people coming back for it. And I'm also getting new people who are finding me as well. So that's what I'm going for every year. It should just constantly be growing, more weekends added on at a time. Um, let's see. Um, Annie asked for mini sessions. Do you do just one pickup point or as many as you can get through? That's a great question. I answered that a little bit earlier. I'll try to hit up 3 because I want some variety. So I spend about 3 to 5 minutes per pickup point. If you're staying in one location during the day of outdoor minis, how do you deal with the changing sun, harsh light during the day? Okay, so that was another lesson I had to learn as well. When I first started offering mini session, the reason why I was only able to offer 4 is because I offered 2 in the morning and 2 during golden hour. And that was all the time I had because I did not want to shoot between 11 to 2 or 3, right? Um, Once I started learning how to shoot in harsh light, though, that changed everything. So then I was able to start shooting all throughout the day. Um, if you go to it's carolinetraneducation.com. I have a bunch of free guides there, and one guide specifically is how to shoot in the harsh sun, and that was created specifically for mini sessions and um, not just mini sessions actually, but portraits. Having to shoot portraits in the middle of the day because how many times have you gotten a mom say, "My child's nap time," my child naps, 2 times a day. The only time he can shoot is at 12 o'clock at noon. So I've had to learn how to make that work. And that helps me be able to shoot any time of day. But for mini session, if you want to be really efficient, the best thing to do is to do it indoors with studio lighting so that the light is all the same so that when you're in post production, it's a matter of just sync all. You edit one and sync all and it matches for all. And that's what's going to make the post production faster. Um, let's see. Ooh, I'm just trying to see what different. Do you give them
There's
10?
one about printing,
Uh-huh.
asking if you do your own printing.
No, I have labs. I like to print from either Richard Photo Lab or Bay Photo Lab. And I love printing on Fuji Crystal Archive paper matte. I think it's like pretty pastel. I love how it like does skin colors on that.
One more question,
Yes.
and then I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah, which one should we
Uh,
take?
well, somebody asked, let's see, we had one about in the studio, do you use ambient light or
For
do you
studio light.
use studio light? That's a good one.
Yeah. So when I'm in the studio, I do both. So for so I used to have a studio for the first time in 10 years, during the pandemic, I shut it down, which was really sad for me. But I'm glad I did it as well. It helped me be more creative and allowed me to pivot and think of other ways to shoot that was different than what I was doing inside the studio. So now I offer either outdoor studio shoots, which is COVID friendly. It's set up in my driveway in front of my garage, or I offer in my home studio shoot. So I have one tiny room. It's maybe 8 foot wide, 8 by 10, maybe 8 by 11, perhaps. Um, and that one has a lot of natural light that comes in. But what I find is that if I'm lazy, I'll just go ahead and shoot natural light because it works, it's beautiful, and I've done it for many years and it looks great. If I know I'm going to be taking a lot of photos, like for example, if it's all day, I will go ahead and set up the studio light and I actually will black out the windows unless they actually wanted the windows in the picture because it makes the editing so much easier after that. And so being able to create the natural light look using Flash was a big game changer for me. I was n- I'm now able to deliver consistent looking studio portraits regardless of whether it was natural light or Flash. And I have some good examples. Again, if you go to carolinetranseducation.com, I put some examples on there where I compared like this was studio light, this was natural light, and you can see how like you couldn't tell the difference between the two. And that was a big game changer, especially when you start doing volume.
Okay, I hate to cut it off because I know people have more questions, but thank you so much, Caroline. There was so much great information in this, and I know that everybody really appreciated what you had to offer, and they'll be checking out your websites. Uh,
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I hope that we're all going to be at WPPI 2021, August 15th to the 19th in Las Vegas at the Mirage Convention Center. Again, we'd like to thank Tamron for supporting this webinar and also to thank some of the sponsors who are going to be part of WPPI 2021 that you can see up on your screen. So thanks everybody. Thanks again, Caroline. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.